How's it going, everyone? It's Harvey from This One Shot. Today is April 23rd, 2021, and today we're gonna forecast the hurricane season for the Atlantic. But before I begin, make sure to subscribe if you want to see more weather records, and make sure to like if you like this video. Make sure to turn on post notifications if you want to see even more weather records. So, as promised, I will be forecasting the hurricane season for the 2021 hurricane season. I already did it a couple weeks ago. I already did my forecast, but it's good to update it to stay up to date with the latest information. So I'm gonna give an updated hurricane season forecast based off of new data we've received over the past several weeks. So let's first take a look at the Oceanic Nino Index, which gives a good idea of the sea surface temperatures right around the eastern Pacific, right around the equatorial region. And as you can see, if we take a look at the Nino 3.4 region, which is a region typically used to determine what type of ENSO pattern we will be in. Will we be in a El Nino season, or will we be in a La Nina season? This is the region to go to when determining what pattern we will be in. And as you can see, we pretty much peaked right around the La Nina season, right around very early winter, between November and December, and we've been in a La Nina phase for quite some time, pretty much beginning right around the May to June timeframe, and it continued on for months, which is one of the reasons why we had a historically high active hurricane season, where we just saw 30 storms form in the Atlantic, which was an all-time high for the Atlantic. Now, however, over the past several months, we have been seeing that the sea surface temperatures right around the equatorial region have been lowering in the Nino 3.4 region, which means that we're now more transitioning less from a La Nina phase and more into a neutral phase, which could make big differences in terms of the hurricane season forecast. However, overall, the forecast still for the sea surface temperatures going forward over the next couple months, it's still leaning on bringing the temperatures further below average for the equatorial region of the Pacific. If we were to take a look at the forecast, while the most likely pattern that's expected to happen over the next several months, which includes April and May, we're already in April, the most likely phase we're currently in right now is right around the neutral phase, and that pretty much means that the sea surface temperatures right around the Nino 3.4 region of the equatorial Pacific is between the negative 0.5 degrees Celsius and the positive 0.5 degrees Celsius threshold, which is pretty much the threshold where the phase or the current ENSO pattern is neutral. And what an ENSO phase typically means is that we're more likely to see more hurricanes because it's more during an El Nino phase, where we do see a less active than usual hurricane season in the Atlantic. But when we're in a neutral phase, it doesn't really bring that much of a difference from, let's say, a La Nina phase, especially since the La Nina phase is expected to come back later during the summer, near the close to the peak of the hurricane season, where in August and September we do see the probability of a La Nina rise to the point where it's pretty much almost an equal chance that we will experience a La Nina phase just as much as a neutral phase. So we're definitely going to need to keep a close eye on how the sea surface temperatures in the equatorial Pacific change over the next several months, because that'll be huge in determining exactly how active the hurricane season will be, while all the factors are pretty much pointing towards a more active than usual hurricane season for this year. We want to know how active, and I think a La Nina phase could make it maybe potentially close to another historic hurricane season. But as of right now, the forecast is currently a neutral phase, which is still lenient on bringing a more active than usual hurricane season, especially since the sea surface temperatures throughout the Atlantic will be or are forecasted to be above average for this time of the year. If we were to take a look at the current sea surface temperatures right now all throughout, let's say, the Western Atlantic, which includes the Gulf of Mexico and the Caribbean Sea, you see that we're now reaching the 80 degrees threshold at this point. And while there's certainly still way too much wind shear and westerly winds blowing through the upper level winds blowing through the Caribbean at this point to really induce any sort of tropical storm formation, tropical activity, it's still very important to point out that the sea surface temperatures throughout the Gulf of Mexico and the Caribbean are rising to a point where they're going to be well above average for this time, or it's forecasted to be well above average headed into this hurricane season. If we were to take a look at the current sea surface temperatures anomaly all throughout the Atlantic, you see that we have seen some changes regarding the sea surface temperature anomaly throughout the Atlantic, because in my last forecast, most of the main development region was in well above average sea surface temperatures during my last forecast, which is around 3 weeks ago. But now you see that we're seeing sea surface temperatures right around average or even close to below average for this time of the year throughout the main development region of the Atlantic. However, I do expect that to change, because if you look just to the north of this cold pocket in the main development region, we see well above average sea surface temperatures. And since the ocean currents of the Atlantic move sort of in a circular direction, where we see the Gulf Stream bring a lot of that warmer Gulf of Mexico and Caribbean Sea water further northward, we also see another current that moves further southward. And since we're seeing that, and since there's a current that brings a lot of this water further southward, it's going to bring a lot of this warmer than average water further southward with it. And as a result, I do expect this warm pocket just off the coast of Africa and just to the south and west of Spain to move further southward and rebound those sea surface temperatures to the point where most of the main development region will get back into above average sea surface temperatures for most of this summer. So I do expect that we're going to see a more active main development region for this summer and this hurricane season in general, especially since we're pretty much coming off of a strong La Nina last year. And typically speaking, like I said in my previous video, where for my summer forecast, where I stated that typically during years after a strong La Nina, we typically see warmer than average air temperatures throughout the United States. I do expect that to extend to the Atlantic, where we're going to see more warmer than average temperatures all throughout the Atlantic in terms of air temperature, as a result of because if we look at historical data, typically speaking, we see warmer air temperatures in a year after a strong La Nina, and eventually those warmer than average air temperatures will extend to the Atlantic, and it'll warm up a lot of the Atlantic to the point where I do believe we're going to see much warmer than average sea surface temperatures all throughout the Atlantic. So while you are seeing cold pockets of below average sea surface temperatures just off the coast of Africa, right around the main development region, and right just off the coast of the southeast, I do expect that to change as the air temperatures warm up this summer, and they're going to warm up to a point where it's going to be well above average, and those sea surface temperatures will warm up along with the air temperature, just at a slower rate, because obviously the ocean does take it does take quite a bit longer to warm up and cool down than the air temperature. So as a result, I do expect the sea surface temperatures all throughout the Atlantic to warm up, which would make it more conducive for an active hurricane season. Now, another thing we need to keep in mind for this hurricane season is comparing the current conditions of what we're experiencing right now to other hurricane season that had very similar conditions. And the one way we have done it is taking a look at the years prior in the Atlantic hurricane season and taking a look at our current conditions right now and compare it to hurricane seasons that were very similar. And you see that that there are 5 years which were very which seem very similar to what we've experienced this year and what we're currently experiencing right now. And you see the years include the 1996 hurricane season, the 2001 hurricane season, the 2008 hurricane season, the 2011 hurricane season, and the 2017 hurricane season. And as you can see, for all these hurricane seasons, we've had more hurricanes or more named storms than usual, where the average is around 10 named storms per hurricane, or 13 named storms per hurricane season. And you see that the only hurricane season that was at least close to average was the 1996 hurricane season, where it pretty much got the exact average of named storms during that season. But if you take a look at the 4 other seasons, most of the other hurricane seasons were well above average, and some of these hurricane seasons were quite devastating for a lot of the United States, even, and for countries outside of the United States as well, where the 2011 hurricane season, while I'd say 2011, a lot of us dodged a bullet, we obviously had Hurricane Irene, which just was very devastating for a lot of the East Coast, even if it didn't live exactly up to expectations. And if we take a look at the 2017 hurricane season, we obviously are, at least us weather enthusiasts and even those outside of that spectrum, we obviously remember the 2017 hurricane season as just being just very active, very devastating. We had Hurricane Irma, obviously we had Hurricane Harvey, and we also had Hurricane Maria, which just pounded Puerto Rico. So based off of what we've been seeing in the 2020 hurricane season, and comparing it to years prior, it seems like we're gonna experience a more active than usual hurricane season based off of what historical data is saying, where in years very similar to this, it's more likely that we're going to experience a more active hurricane season overall. And in terms of the tracks of, let's say, these years, so this of the years that were very similar to the 2021 hurricane season or year, taking a look at the 1996 hurricane season, you see that a lot of the tracks, we did see a lot of development around the main development region, and we do see a lot of storms move up northwards, and we did see some hurricanes make landfall right around North Carolina, and it extended all the way to the northeast. However, you see in the Gulf of Mexico, it was a fairly light hurricane season overall, as majority of the storms formed right around the main development region. And if we even take a look at other hurricane seasons that were very similar to the 2021 year in general, you see that 2001, you see that a lot of the hurricanes mainly develop offshore and right around the main development region. If we take a look at 2008, 2008 was, I think, the exception, where a lot of storms did develop and impact a lot of the Gulf Coast states. But 2011, again, it's where mostly the main development region was getting the most storm formation. So as a result, I do expect based off of the years prior that were very similar to this year, I do expect majority of the storms to form right around the main development region based off of historical data and the years that were very similar to this, because of all the years that were very similar to the 2021 hurricane season, most of them were lenient on developing storms around the main development region rather than the Gulf of Mexico. So as a result, I do expect the main development region to be the most active for this hurricane season. But the thing that I think maybe that could limit the how active this hurricane season is a neutral phase, because if that neutral phase continues to dominate for most of the summer, then we're less likely to see another historic or of crazy active hurricane season again, like we saw last year, since obviously a La Nina phase is more likely to bring unstable air and more rising air into the atmosphere. If we were to take a look at what a typical La Nina does to a hurricane season, we do see that there's less atmospheric stability. There's less wind shear as a result of less divergence in this region. So as a result, I do expect that we're gonna but since we're not gonna be directly in a La Nina, more likely than not, I do expect it to not be as historic as last year, but still will be more active than usual because of the higher sea surface temperatures. And based off of the conditions we're seeing right now, which comparing that to previous hurricane season, very similar to what we're experiencing right now, it's pretty much more likely than not, it's going to be a more active hurricane season. Now, in terms of where you could experience the most storm formations, obviously I listed the main development region as having the highest risk of storm formations, mainly because it's very typical for the conditions we're experiencing in 2021 for most of the storms to happen. And I do expect still above average storm formations right around the Gulf of Mexico, because sea surface temperatures will be up thanks to because we're coming off of a strong La Nina, and typically the year after brings a lot more warmer than average conditions throughout the United States and throughout the northern Atlantic in general. So as a result, I do expect those sea surface temperatures to enhance storm activity, tropical storm and hurricane activity throughout the Gulf of Mexico. And just to the north of it, it will be uncertain. It really all depends on how this Bermuda Ridge forms this summer to really determine how many storms will form, or at least move this far up north for this summer. But yeah, guys, in terms of the exact amount of storms I'm forecasting for this hurricane season, now in my last forecast, I listed total storm amount of around 20 storms, but I do think I went a little bit high with that prediction. Now, since I saw the analog years, or the years very similar to the 2021 hurricane season, I'm now leaning towards making my prediction sort of more in line with the analog years or the reference years, where I'm predicting 18 total storms, 9 hurricanes and 4 major hurricanes, which makes it an above average hurricane season as well. But keep in mind, whether this season is only average, above average, or historically record breaking, remember, it only takes one storm to completely devastate a community and change people's lives. So do not underestimate a hurricane season just because your forecast might not live to its expectations, because remember, one storm could completely destroy a community. So yeah, guys, make sure to prepare for this hurricane season along the coast. It's expected to be more active than usual, and just make sure to stay tuned for your local forecasts, because a hurricane could impact you guys headed into this summer. But yeah, guys, I thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe if you want to see more weather-related content. Make sure to like if you like this video, and make sure to turn on post notifications if you want to see even more weather-related content. And I hope you guys have a good day.